welcome to the Varn Vlog Solo. And today I'm going to talk about why I try not to report on media as it's happening, because I need to offer a correction. In yesterday's video that I made pretty quickly about the Restrict Act and Bidenism, I reported that AOC was not supporting a TikTok ban, but seemed to be in general support of the Restrict Act. I'm going to share my screen so those who are watching can follow along, but I'm going to show you why I did that. Now today you will note that we're looking here. Let's see if I can make this a little larger for you. We'll look at vote on the Restrict Act. There is a lot going on. The vote for the Restrict Act is probably today, and there are protests going on, which AOC seems to be participating. Now, yesterday I reported that AOC seemed to be supporting the Restrict Act, although she has not voted on it yet, as the Senate hasn't even voted on it yet. I believe that will probably happen today. But I went to look on AOC voted on the Restrict Act, and the first thing that I got yesterday was AOC spoke out against the TikTok ban, but not the Restrict Act. All right. Here it says AOC is one of the 7 no votes on the Restrict Act, is one of them based in most important vote. Yeah, now that's not strictly speaking true, because that vote hasn't happened yet. Right? If you actually click on the link, the headline changes. The original headline was AOC speaks out against TikTok ban, but has remained silent on the Restrict Act. The actual text of the article has been expanded. Now, there's no talk of a correction here, because technically speaking, but he made a mistake, but I'm so that we know why Congress seems to move Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat in New York, joined the app and released a video called TikTok ban on president, and saying it does not support it. Ocasio-Cortez pointed the focus back on social media companies in general and has to have a nationwide data and she worked is her most basic and important vote yet. +400 of your reps voted for it, Rowan. Ocasio-Cortez here. But not on the Restrict Act, which is in itself kind of misleading. And I have taken that to say that she was tacitly supporting it because she was supporting the Biden agenda. I should not have said that. But also, that headline is kind of misleading. This brings us, though, to the Restrict Act in general. We'll know more about it today after the vote and who supports it and who doesn't. But it seems like right now, the people who could vote on it, who oppose it, are Rand Paul, and Ilham Omar, Jamal Bowman, and Representative Ocasio-Cortez have come out against the proposed TikTok ban. But again, the Restrict Act is not a TikTok ban. It's actually far larger than that and doesn't have the data protections that they're concerned about. It's about limiting access to data from foreign companies as decided on by the Secretary of Commerce. And it's a 55-page bill. It's actually not that long for a bill. If you read it online, it reads about 10 pages. But there's a whole, while it is more specific than prior attempts to do the same thing, I have looked up the lawfare review in the Restrict Act, and I'm going to share that with you. It still has a lot of fairly vague legal language in it that can be interpreted by the courts in multiple directions, and which courts have jurisdiction to interpret it is actually part of the problem. So this is from 8 days ago. So I will share this with you. Two new bills on TikTok and beyond, the Data Act and the Restrict Act. And I want to be clear, the Biden administration has only come out supporting the Restrict Act. I also want to say there was another bill proposed by Josh Hawley, which was specifically just to ban TikTok, which did not pass. So what's in, according to this, the Restrict Act, and this is a somewhat favorable review. The Restrict Act would establish a framework for the Secretary of Commerce to review covered foreign-linked ICTs for national security risks and develop options that could range from no action to restriction on a tech company, product, or service. It has some broad elements, and much remains to be seen in how legislation is received, but its risk framework, spectrum of responses, and provisions for the U.S. government to declassify evidence of security risks makes it much stronger bill on non-U.S. tech companies, products, and services than most, if not all, of what Congress has been seen in recent years. Stronger here means more restrictive. In the press release, Warner said, "We need a comprehensive risk-based approach to proactively tackling potential dangerous technology before they gain foothold in America, so we aren't playing whack-a-mole and scrambling to catch up once they're already ubiquitous." Toon said, Toon's the Republican sponsor, "Congress needs to stop taking a piecemeal approach when it comes to technology from adversarial nations that pose a security risk. We need a process in place to address those risks." Importantly, the Restrict Act defines covered entity as a foreign adversary. An entity subject to the jurisdiction or organization under law of a foreign adversary, or an entity owned, directed, or controlled by a foreign adversary that falls under two prior categories. The bill defines foreign adversaries any foreign government or regime, per the Secretary of Commerce, based on risks discussed in the bill, that has engaged in long-term pattern of serious instances of conflict that adversely affect the national security and safety of the United States person. It explicitly currently designates China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela as countries on the list, with the potential for them to be removed pursuant to later risk criteria. So we have immediately Cuba, China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela. The bill identifies 5 main categories of risk: sabotage or subversion of ICE products and services in the U.S., catastrophic effects on security or resilience of the U.S. critical infrastructure are the digital economy, interfering or altering the result of reported of U.S. federal elections, coercive or criminal activities by foreign adversaries designed to undermine the democratic process or institutions, are still policy and regulatory decisions in favor of an adversary's objective. The Restrict Act focuses on broad categories that can encompass a range of ever-changing technologies for digital sabotage, for espionage and influence. It does not pigeonhole itself to putting either tactics of the day into law, which is sure to change, and which foreign actors could easily dance around. It is more specific than the Anti-Social CCP Act, which was a prior act to do the same thing. All right. A lot of people who are critics note that a lot of the language from here is reflective of the Patriot Act. I just want to be clear on that, because I don't trust this Restrict Act. I think it is dangerously overbroad, like I reported yesterday. But I don't want to slander AOC, even though I am not an AOC fan and remain not an AOC fan. I tend to not get into this because of the way in which people both over-invested and then over-disinvested in a particular congresswoman. One that I always thought had a much more limited purview than was being projected upon her. And that goes back to 2019 and 2020, when allies and friends of mine would have me on their show and actually see her as a possible replacement for Bernie Sanders to unite the left and the liberal left, which even at the time I found to be somewhat preposterous, as I have generally found AOC to be a media-centered candidate whose takes are far more in line with the Progressive Caucus and a true outsider voice, although she does deviate on certain issues, and this appears to be one of them. But we'll see how much Scott's opposition actually matters. But I don't want to misinform people on what her stance actually is or what is in the law. And on that, I hope you see a problem with internet media now on the way that auto updating and reframing makes it sometimes misleading as to what is being said in an article, and how you really need to parse it, because just pulling an article up and reading a headline when the headline's likely to change is itself going to be a misleading mistake. And I wanted to illustrate for you because I made it. Have a great day.